a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Crazy Rich Asians, film. Crazy Rich Asians is a 2018 American romantic comedy drama film directed by Jon M, from a screenplay by Peter Chiarelli and Adele Lim, based on Kevin Kwan's 2013 novel of the same name. The film stars Constance Wu, Henry Golding, Michelle Yeoh, Gemma Chan, Lisa Liu, Awkwafina, and Ken Jeong, and follows an American professor who travels to meet her boyfriend's family and is surprised to discover they are among the richest in Singapore. The film was announced in August 2013 after the rights to the book were purchased. Much of the cast signed on in the spring of 2017, and filming took place from April to June of that year in parts of Malaysia and Singapore. It was released in the United States on August 15, 2018, by Warner Bros. Pictures, to generally positive reviews from critics, who praised its performances, screenplay, and the production design. It is the first film by a major Hollywood studio to feature a majority Asian American cast in a modern setting since the Joy Luck Clu in 1993. As of October 2018, the film had grossed over $226 million worldwide, making it the highest-grossing romantic comedy in a decade. A sequel is in development. Plot: in 1995, Eleanor Young, her son, sister-in-law, and niece arrive at a London hotel with a reservation, only to be told condescendingly by the receptionists that the room she booked is not available. Eleanor and family are turned away by the concierge of the hotel and she is forced to call her husband using a public telephone. When she returns to the hotel, the owner warmly greets her at the lobby and introduces her to the staff as the new owner of the hotel. In the present, Rachel Chu, an economics professor at New York University in New York City, plays poker with a teaching assistant to demonstrate to her game theory class that, in games involving both psychology and choice, he is playing to win, instead of trying not to lose. Rachel accepts an invitation from her boyfriend Nick Young to accompany him to Singapore for his best friend Colin's wedding. Nick's mother Eleanor learns of the relationship from rapid online gossip. Rachel is shocked when Nick arranges a first-class suite for the flight. He claims that his family is comfortable in Singapore. Rachel and Nick join Colin and his fiancée Araminta for dinner in a hawker center. The next day, Rachel visits her old college friend Paik Lin, who accompanies her to a party thrown by Nick's family. Rachel makes several faux pas and quickly realizes that Nick's mother, Eleanor, dislikes her, but seems to make a good impression on Nick's grandmother, Suyi. Rachel attends Araminta's bachelorette party at a resort owned by her family, while Nick attends Colin's bachelor party aboard a container ship arranged by their boorish schoolmate Bernard. A woman named Amanda seemingly befriends Rachel, but deliberately undermines her confidence before revealing that she had previously dated Nick. Amanda sends out a text signaling some of the women who vandalize Rachel's bed with a dead fish and graffiti calling Rachel a gold-digging bitch. Nick's cousin Astrid comforts Rachel, admitting that her life is not perfect either, as her husband Michael is having an affair. When Nick and Colin flee the ship to relax, Nick tells Colin he plans to propose to Rachel. Colin is concerned that Nick's family's disapproval and the couple's cultural differences will be insurmountable. After Rachel vents to Nick about her unpleasantries at the bachelorette party, he apologizes to her for concealing his wealth and takes her to make dumplings by hand with his family. Rachel admires Eleanor's distinctive engagement ring. Eleanor tells her how she met her husband and the sacrifices she made to be a part of the family. While looking for the bathroom, Rachel spots Eleanor, who tells her that Nick's grandmother disapproved of Eleanor and denied Nick's father the family ring, and tells Rachel she will never be good enough for Nick. Rachel considers leaving Singapore, but Paik Lin convinces her to stand up to Eleanor, giving Rachel a glamorous makeover before the wedding with help from Nick's cousin Oliver. Meanwhile, Astrid tells Michael she knows he is cheating on her, and they break up. At the wedding, Rachel displays a remarkable degree of social grace which earns her the admiration of many people, and even manages to befriend Princess Inton, who is normally cold and reserved. However, at the reception, Eleanor and Soo-yi pull Rachel aside and reveal that they hired an investigator to research Rachel's background, discovering that Rachel was conceived through an adulterous affair. After which Rachel's mother, Kerry, abandoned her husband and fled to America. Rachel is stunned, as her mother had lied to her saying that her father was dead. Eleanor and Soo-yi demand that Nick stop seeing Rachel for fear of scandal. Rachel runs away in tears, and Nick chases after her, even though his grandmother threatens to disown him. Rachel becomes depressed and stays for several days at the house of Paik Lin. She is surprised to discover that Kerry has arrived in Singapore to visit her. Kerry explains that her husband was abusive and that she became pregnant from an old classmate who was trying to comfort her, later fleeing for fear of her husband's reprisals. Kerry reveals that Nick arranged her visit and urges Rachel to reconcile with him. When they meet up, Nick proposes to her. Rachel meets Eleanor at a mahjong parlor and explains that she declined Nick's proposal in order to prevent the ruin of Nick's relationship with his family. She tells Eleanor that one day, down the road, Eleanor will look back and realize that she is in Rachel's debt. Rachel intentionally loses the mahjong game to Eleanor, symbolizing her sacrifice, and then walks away with Kerry. Shortly afterward, Astrid and her son move out of Michael's apartment. Rachel and Kerry board an economy-class flight back to the United States. However, Nick arrives and proposes with Eleanor's ring, revealing Eleanor's blessing. Rachel accepts and they stay in Singapore an extra day for an engagement party, during which Eleanor gently reveals her grudging respect for Rachel. In the mid-credit scene, Astrid exchanges glances with her ex-fiancé, Charlie Wu. Cast: Crazy Rich Asians author Kevin Kwan has a cameo appearance during the Radio 1 Asia sequence. Harry Shum Jr. makes a brief appearance as Astrid's ex-fiancé, a handsome man who catches Astrid's eye during the final moments of the film. Keena Grannis makes an appearance during the wedding sequence as the wedding singer. Pre-production: Kevin Kwan published his comedic novel Crazy Rich Asians on June 11, 2013. One of the first producers to reach out to Kwan was Wendy Deng, who had read an advance copy of the novel provided by Graydon Carter. Another of the producers who was initially interested in the project proposed whitewashing the role of heroine Rachel Chu by casting a Caucasian actress, prompting Kwan to option the rights to the film for just $1 in exchange for a continuing role for creative and development decisions. In August 2013, producer Nina Jacobson acquired rights to adapt the novel into a film. Jacobson and her partner Brad Simpson intended to produce under their production banner Color Force, with Brian Unclus developing the project. Their initial plan was to produce the film adaptation outside the studio system and to structure financing for development and production from Asia and other territories outside the United States. The freedom created by eschewing the typical funding structure would enable an all-Asian cast. Jacobson stated, "Getting something in development and even getting some upfront money is an easy way to not ever see your movie get made." In 2014, the US-based Asian film investment group Ivanhoe Pictures partnered with Jacobson to finance and produce Crazy Rich Asians. John Pinotti, president of Ivanhoe, stated, "For us, the book fell in our lap kind of like, this is why we're doing the company. Unlike the Hollywood second-guessing, oh my god, will this work? We don't know. It's all Asian." It was exactly the opposite for us. That's exactly why it will work. Screenwriters Adele Lim and Peter Chiarelli were hired to write the screenplay before a director was brought on board. Chiarelli was credited with focusing the plot on the dynamic between Eleanor, Rachel, and Nick. Lim, who was born in Malaysia, added specific cultural details and developed Eleanor's character. Director Jon M entered negotiations with Color Force and Ivanhoe Pictures in May 2016 to direct the film adaptation. He was hired after giving executives a visual presentation about his experience as a first-generation Asian American. Chu was actually mentioned obliquely in the source novel as Kwan was friends with Shu cousin Vivian. In October 2016, Warner Bros. Pictures acquired the distribution rights to the project after what Variety called a heated bidding war. Netflix reportedly fervently sought worldwide rights to the project, offering artistic freedom, a green-lighted trilogy and huge, seven-figure minimum paydays for each stakeholder, upfront. However, Kwan and Chu selected Warner for the cultural impact of a wide theatrical release. Although she had initially auditioned for the role of Rachel in mid-2016, Constance Wu could not accept due to a conflict with her work on Fresh Off the Boat. However, Wu wrote to Chu explaining her connection with Rachel's character, and convinced him to push back the production schedule by 4 months. Production was slated to begin in April 2017 in Singapore and Malaysia. Casting. After Wu was chosen to play the lead Rachel Chu, newcomer Henry Golding was cast to play the male lead Nick Young. Michelle Yeoh joined the cast as Eleanor Young, Nick's mother, in March 2017. Rounding out the supporting cast is Gemma Chan as Nick's cousin Astrid Leong and Sonoya Mizuno as Zaraminta Lee. Wu, Yeoh, and Chan were part of director Shu's dream casting sheet before casting was confirmed, along with Ronnie Chieng and Jimmy O Yang. On April 18, 2017, Filipino actress Chris Aquino was cast in a cameo role. On May 12, it was announced that Ken Jeong had joined the cast. Although Jeong had a minor role involving less than a week of filming, he stated, "It's just something I wanted to be part of. It's about wanting to be part of something monumental. Something that's bigger than me. I'm so giddy I'm part of this, I can't even tell you." Biscuit Films, a production company based in Petaling Jaya that provided support for the film, commissioned casting director Jerica Lay to provide local talent which included Carmen Su and Calvin Wong. The film's casting prior to release was met with both praise, in the US, for its all-Asian cast, and criticism for its lack of Asian ethnic diversity, based on issues ranging from non-Chinese actors playing Chinese roles, the film's ethnic Chinese and East Asian predominance as being poorly representative of Singapore, and as being a perpetuation of existing Chinese dominance in its media and pop culture. For more discussion on the criticism of casting choices, refer to photography. Principal photography began on April 24, 2017, and completed on June 23. The film was shot at locations in Kuala Lumpur, Langkawi, and Penang, Malaysia, and in Singapore. Production design is credited to Nelson Coates. Producer Tim Coddington contacted Biscuit Films for potential locations in Malaysia similar to photographs he had of mansions in Thailand, and Biscuit convinced him to switch locations to Malaysia, which is culturally more similar to Singapore, where the source novel is set. The ancestral Young family home, set at Tyersal Park in Singapore, was actually filmed at 2 abandoned mansions that make up Carcosa Serinegara within the Padano Botanical Gardens of Kuala Lumpur. Interior scenes were filmed at one building, and the exterior scenes were filmed at another. They had originally been built as residences for the British High Commissioner to Malaya in the early 20th century, and were recently used as a boutique hotel until it closed in 2015. The Carcosa Serinegara buildings, owned by the Malaysian government, were then abandoned. As found in 2017, they were in disrepair and filled with monkey feces. The set designers were inspired to decorate the interior set in the Peranakan style. Kevin Kwan, who was born in Singapore and lived with his paternal grandparents before moving to the United States, contributed vintage family photographs for the set. The set designers removed carpets, painted the floors to look like tiles, and commissioned local artists to create murals. The stuffed tiger in the foyer was a simulacrum created from foam and fur in Thailand. Customs inspectors delayed the shipment because they thought it was an actual taxidermied animal. The opening urban scenes set in London and the West Village were actually shot in Kuala Lumpur and Penang. The Calthorpe Hotel purchased by the Youngs is the Iando Hotel in Penang. The lecture auditorium set at NYU was filmed in Putrajaya, and the restaurant where Nick asks Rachel to travel was filmed at Boulevard House. NASA Towers at Platinum Park in Kuala Lumpur. Singapore Airlines was asked to participate in exchange for product placement, but declined as they were not sure the movie would represent the airline and their customers in a good light, according to producer Brad Simpson, leading to the creation of the fictional Pacific ASIAN Airlines for the film. After Nick asks Rachel to travel with him to Araminta and Colin's wedding, rumors about his mystery girlfriend soon reach Eleanor at a Bible study session, filmed in the private residence Belanda House in Kuala Lumpur. The luxurious first-class suite on the Pacific ASIAN flight was a set built at the Malaysia International Exhibition and Convention Centre in Serdang, Selangor. The scenes where Rachel and Nick arrive at Changi Airport and are then whisked away to Newton Food Centre were shot on location. After settling in, Rachel and Nick stay at a luxury hotel instead of the ancestral Young estate at Tyersall. Astrid's character is introduced by showing her shopping for jewelry at an exclusive designer. The shop was created by redecorating the Astor Bar at the St. Regis Hotel in Kuala Lumpur. The Goh family lives in an actual residence off Cluny Park in Singapore, although the set decorators were responsible for the excessive gilding and pillars. Colin and Nick escape the party barge to relax on Rawa Island, and the bachelorette party takes place at the Four Seasons on Langkawi. After Eleanor intimidates Rachel at the dumpling party, she is cheered up by Paitlin at the restaurant Humpback on Bukit Pasoh Road. The wedding of Araminta and Colin was shot at the Chimes, a former convent in Singapore built in the 19th century. After the wedding, the reception is held in the Supertree Grove at Gardens by the Bay. Rachel agrees to meet Nick at Merlion Park before she returns to New York. Eleanor strides through archways in An Siang Hill near Singapore's Chinatown before arriving for the Mahjong showdown with Rachel, which was filmed at the Chong Fat Ji Mansion in Penang. Redecorated for the film as a Mahjong parlor. A late scene featuring Nick and Rachel was filmed inside a twin-aisle jet parked at Kuala Lumpur International Airport. The film's closing scenes are set at the Marina Bay Sands. The film was shot by Vanya Sernjul using Panasonic Varicam Pure cameras equipped with anamorphic lenses. Costumes. Costume design was handled by Mary Voigt, with Andrea Wong serving as a consultant and senior costume buyer. They used dresses and suits from fashion designers such as Ralph Lauren, Elie Saab, Dolce & Gabbana, Valentino, and Dior. Many of the brands were eager to have their clothes shown off in the film. Looks were influenced by other movies cited by director Jon Chu, including The Wizard of Oz, Cinderella, and In the Mood for Love. 30 makeup artists were on set to help the actors, who were filming scenes in conditions of high heat and humidity while wearing formal clothing. Before traveling to Malaysia and Singapore, Voigt received help from Kwan, who shared vintage family photographs to explain how the old money society in Singapore was very classy, very elegant, contrasting with the new money Go family, who are just flinging it around, wanting to show it off. Andrea Wong pointed Voigt to designers around Kuala Lumpur, who contributed not only clothes, but also insight into local high society fashions. Kwan, who had worked as a design consultant before writing the novel, relied on people he knew working in the fashion industry to bring him clothes for the film. In an early scene, Astrid gives a watch to her husband Michael. It is a Paul Newman Rolex Daytona loaned following a request from Kwan for the filming. Yeoh used her friendships with wealthy Singaporean and Hong Kong Thais to help shape final wardrobe choices, and loaned pieces from her personal jewelry collection, including the distinctive emerald engagement ring. Kwan and director Chu insisted that all the pieces worn by the Young family must be real. The orchid brooch worn by Su Yi at the wedding and a belt buckle for Eleanor were designed by Michelle Ong and loaned from Carne. Some of the other jewelry pieces, including Astrid's pearl earrings, were loaned from Muawad, and guards were employed to protect the jewelry, which sometimes dictated the filming. The extras who attended the wedding reception were drawn from the Peranakan Association, a historical society, and were asked to wear their own vintage formal clothing to add local flavor to the party. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?